Hello and welcome to episode 69 of the Brass Junkies. I am your host, Andrew Hitz, and I am joined by my fellow host, Lance LaDuke. Lance, how are you?
Well, it's funny you should ask. I have a story to tell you.
Uh-oh.
Are you ready?
I am ready.
So on Monday, and I'm going to tell the full unexpurgated version of this story. So,
wait, should I hit record?
You should hit record.
All right,
So
ahead.
we, in front of our house, there is one of those speed limit signs that the electronic ones it's to try and get people to slow down. So as you're driving at the sign, it registers the speed at which you're driving.
Which frequently has the exact opposite effect.
Exactly. Well,
Yes.
So we were supposed to go get tacos. My better half and her son and my son. Her son is 16, mine is 15. Or no, hers is 17 now. Anyway.
That's an important detail. Make sure
we got to
you
get that one right. So I'm just standing out there waiting for them to come out to go get dinner, and I see the sign, and I say, hey, I wonder if I run at that, if I can trigger it. Because... And actually, the reason I suspected that it would work is that, about 20 years ago, I was playing a brass band at Battle Creek concert, and we were driving back from Milk and Cookies at a place, and Matt Trotman saw one of those things, and he said, "Stop the car!" And he got out and started running at it, and he triggered it. So I thought, well, I think there's a fair to middling chance I can make this happen.
Please tell me you blew out your knee or something like that.
So I run at the sign, and I get at 13 miles an hour. Hey, that's not bad. So then Duncan and David decide they're going to try this now as well. So
Duncan, who's on the track and field team.
He's a great track. He's a really good athlete, runner, cross-country track, winter track, spring track. He runs, and he gets 19 miles an hour. Maybe 20, I can't remember. Greater than me. David runs at it, 17 miles an hour. Well, I can't be outdone. So I go to do my second attempt, and I've seen a Funniest Home video with a person who did what I did, and I laughed so hard at that. And so it was one of these things where I'm thinking in my head, foot speed is going to be the thing. I'm going to, pick him up and put him down pretty quickly. And so this big man is running, this big 50-year-old man is hauling as fast as I can, and all of a sudden, oh no. And I start to fall forward, and the first thought I had in my mind was that America's Funniest Home video. And then the next one was, I'm going down in a big way, and I'm in the middle of the street. And so I try to initiate a barrel roll, and I land on my shoulder and flip over, and I know that my glasses go flying off, and by the time I stand up, David and Duncan had run over to me. David grabbed my glasses, and I turned to look at them, and if you ever seen a boxing match and a guy gets hit in the eye, like an eyebrow, in that area, it just bleeds like crazy. So by the time I've turned around, there is blood dripping off my chin. And these guys are trying not to laugh because it's like, this has to have been the funniest thing they've ever seen live. Has to be.
I would not have tried to not laugh.
And they're shocked too. We all were. And both my hands are completely road rash. There's a dime-sized divot on one of my hands where there used to be skin. Both legs. And we go in the house, and there's still just blood is pouring off of me. And I rinse off my left hand, and then I go to rinse off my right hand, and I realize that my shoulder is not cooperating in any way. So 5 hours later, the nice man at the ER let me know that I had separated my shoulder. I had a laceration on my eyebrow. The X-rays showed no broken. I had not only had I not broken any bones, I didn't break any of.
Wrong with you?
I didn't break the bones in the toes that were aching, and I probably didn't tear a tendon. But that was Monday night. We're recording this on Thursday night, and showering takes 2-3 hours. And I wouldn't say that I
do it a few times a week.
Yeah, exactly. And I wouldn't say that I feel all that clean at the end of the shower. It's
Wow.
I did make it into work today. I took yesterday and Tuesday and Wednesday off. And yeah, especially with this sort of story, it's stupidity that caused this thing to happen. So people come at you with sympathy. Oh my gosh, what happened to you? It turns out I'm stupider than even I thought is the only answer I can come up with. So,
oh, I can't wait to get and I'm going to do this face to face. The next time I see Duncan, your son,
Yeah.
I'm going to ask him for this story,
Oh,
and it's going to be
it's going to
awesome
be awesome.
To get his perspective.
He is so, as I am as well. We are all so bummed out that we don't have video of it because I can't monetize it now. There's nothing to be done. This thing was beautiful. I mean, it was.
Wow.
And you ready? 17
ready.
miles an hour. Thank you very much.
Was it worth it?
It was, yeah. I tied for second.
So you
kidding me?
So you tied for second.
That ain't
So you
bad. The 50-year-old ran as fast. Now, could have been part of it was in the air, but I'm taking the second place. I'll take it just fine. Thank you very much. So that's how I'm doing, Andrew. Thank you for asking.
Wow. That was a long answer since I actually didn't care when I asked.
I know, but see, I've been sitting on that one. That happened the night we confirmed this interview, and I was like, yeah, I'm not telling him. I'm going to wait. And,
wow.
I'll let this unfold.
Yeah, I said, hey, we've got Brian Hecht lined up for Thursday night, and all he wrote back was "great!" exclamation point. I didn't realize that he was like in traction somewhere in a hospital.
Yeah,
so
pretty much.
That's some peak Lance.
Yeah.
And I've been present for a lot of peak Lance,
Yeah.
but that makes the list like without question.
Top 5
So,
stupidest moves, like easy. Yeah, I mean that's up there with Houchin and some others. Yeah, that's definitely top 5 stupid move. Mm-hmm.
there you go.
Yeah. Could have been worse.
Well-
I could have ripped it. I could have broken it. Whatever. Oh.
A laceration of the eyebrow.
Yeah, I'm gonna have a cool looking scar too.
There you go.
Mhm.
Wow. Well, all right. I don't think anyone was expecting that,
Mm-mm.
but thank you for painting that picture for all
Yep.
of us. So,
You're welcome.
this interview was awesome. Brian Hecht, bass trombone of the Atlanta Symphony, who has played with every orchestra and their mother. Is incredible. Just incredible interview. Incredible guy. Incredible player. You're going to love this interview. So, you'll be. I was very impressed with how articulate he is, and I'm friends with him. I wasn't that surprised, but it was great.
Yeah,
so,
I thought so
really
too.
good stuff. So we need to thank Parker Mouthpieces for providing our hosting.
Who?
Parker Mouthpieces offers fine, customizable component mouthpieces for horn, trombone, euphonium, and tuba, including the Andrew Hitz artist model tuba mouthpiece and the Lance LaDuke model running shoe.
That's
the
right.
Lance LaDuke model euphonium mouthpiece.
Mhm.
You can find out more at parkermouthpieces.com or follow them on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And also, can you please tell us about the fine folks at Duquesne University?
There are some fine folks at Duquesne University, and a bunch of them happen to hang out in the Mary Papert School of Music. And the Mary Papert School of Music is a sponsor of this show, and we cannot thank them enough. Thank you very much to the fine folks there. If you're interested in finding out about the brass department and the goings-on that are going on there, you can click on the link in the show notes, and you'll be taken to a special page which kind of shows you all of the ensembles and the folks who are teaching on faculty there. And a special thanks to Jim Nova, who actually, I talked to Jim the other day. He has an album coming out of all of his overdub recordings of the
Nice.
What are those? I can't remember. There's some. It's
Spaceballs.
I thought it was Harry Potter. Was it? I don't know. He did a bunch of overdubs with whatever that instrument is that he plays. And he actually, I was talking to him the other day, and he's like, "Man, you guys just won't let up on me." I was like, "No, Jim, we will not." So, Jim, I know you're listening. It will continue until further notice.
Weakness.
Yeah, there's just
not with simpletons like us.
That's right. All we know how to
There
do
you
is
go.
to beat it into the ground. And by beat it into the ground, I mean trip and crush your shoulder and lacerate your eyebrow.
Also, thank you to everyone who's gone to iTunes, left us a rating and a review, and thank you very much to our patrons. The bonus portion of the episode with Brian this time, which is released the week after each interview, is awesome. He tells a priceless story about a conductor who freaked out on a percussionist. That was worth the price of admission. So,
And we get to hear him warming up.
yes, and we stumbled on him practicing because he connected to the interview on this platform we used to record early, and we heard him practicing, and Lance was impersonating him practicing, but with his voice, and it was all very surreal. So, yes. So thank you to our patrons. Thank you to everyone who went to patreon.com/thebrassjunkies. We really appreciate it. And, I think that without further ado, let's get to our conversation with Brian Hecht of the Atlanta Symphony Orchestra. And today on the Brass Junkies, we are joined by possibly the busiest bass trombone player in the world. I bet he's like genuinely humble, which is annoying. But so he'll probably dispute that, but I swear he plays with more of the wrong. See that you're just being rude, Brian. This is Brian Hecht of the Atlanta Symphony. Brian, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for being here. So we sent Brian the link that he needed to click on in this new system that we use for recording, and I came down and I was already connected because I'm hosting the call, and I hear this faint sound as I'm coming into my basement because my headphones weren't plugged in yet. And then I open it up. I see that Lance and Brian are both already connected. And then I realized that what I'm hearing is that Brian is practicing in the background, and then I laugh, and then Lance hears that I'm on the call, and then he laughs, and then I said, "Well, this is a first," and then Lance said, "Hit record." So Brian is practicing, and Lance is impersonating Brian practicing, and we're gonna put that at the very end of this week's or of next week rather's bonus Patreon only episode. So it's so you hear one of the best bass trombone players in the world practicing, and then Lance and I layering our unique brand of jackassery over that, and so that was something, Lance.
Yeah, I thought so.
The singing is beautiful.
Thank you.
It was beautiful.
You got it,
so,
or you don't.
Yeah, put it this way, Brian. You sounded good already, but even if you only sounded okay compared to what Lance was singing, you sounded like insert your favorite bass trombone player ever. Hell, insert your favorite musician ever, and that's what you sounded like compared to his singing.
We could overlay those tracks of Lance singing over my playing. I think that would be money right there.
Like Jim Nova stuff.
Yes,
that's right.
Nova.
You guys should out Nova, and you should do a bass trombone / baritone voice overdub of like all of the same things that he's done, except just really poor, intentionally poor quality.
It's like you're reading my mind. It's crazy right now.
Needless to say that when Brian and I sat together for just a few days, a few years ago when we played with the American Festival Pops Orchestra together, we got along well.
That's right.
So it was pretty obvious that you were the same brand of jackass that I and Lance are.
That was a fun gig.
So Yeah, that was a fun gig. That was a lot of fun. So, but you've played with everybody. It's ridiculous. Why don't you tell people who you are, for those who don't know, and what you've done, and then I'll tell them all the rest of the stuff you've done since you're too humble to actually list all of it.
Well, as you know, my name's Brian Hecht. I am originally from Dallas, Texas. I guess I'm just going with a bio here.
Are you reading it, or do you remember?
No. I'm just sort of like racking my brain. Like, who am I? Where have I? What? Like, I'm from Dallas, right? I got that much.
There's a good chance that you're lying about stuff if you have to read it just to remember what you lied about in the first place.
I am an expert Lego builder, actually.
I used to be Pope.
That was a lie. Yes.
He did show up to the dress rehearsal in purple shoes. It was weird. But anyway.
I'm bass trombonist at the Atlanta Symphony. I was in the Navy Band in Washington, D.C. before this, from 2009 to 2013. I did my grad school at Northwestern 07 to 09 and UT Austin 03 to 07. Yeah.
There you go. And you have also, is everyone sitting down? So, Brian, how old are you?
Man, I always have to remember. 32.
All right, sorry. I thought that was a layup, and that was like the I thought you were going to give the standard what we all do when we need a delay. That's a good question, like whenever you're interviewed. So Brian is the ripe old age of 32, and he has, in addition to playing with the Navy Band and the Atlanta Symphony, he has played with the New York Phil, the Chicago Symphony, the Cleveland Orchestra, the Philadelphia Orchestra, the San Francisco Symphony, the Pittsburgh Symphony, the National Symphony, the Seattle Symphony, the Baltimore Symphony, the Alabama Symphony, Naples Philharmonic, Washington National Opera, Lyric Opera of Baltimore, and the Kennedy Center Ballet. And I'm guessing there's probably two more and you just haven't updated the bio. Is that, and you're probably like, yeah, that's true. How the hell does someone play with that many? And you sound phenomenal. So that's not the question, but how the hell have you played with all of those orchestras?
Oh, thanks, man. I don't even know. I've gotten very fortunate in my career to have met the right people at the right time. I guess networking's been a big part of it, and it's, friends. I don't know, man. I really don't know. Like, a couple of them came through auditions. I will say that, that I've taken their auditions. Philadelphia, I took their sublist audition and was put onto their sublist. And I think a week later, Blair Bollinger was giving a recital in Washington, D.C. And I went to it and I went backstage to shake his hand. He's like, "Oh, hey, while you're here, get your phone out. I want to see if you're available in 2 weeks." So I was like, "Oh, yeah, okay." With
I thought you might have.
Yeah. With New York, I took their audition and I was runner-up to George, and so I got a call to play with them after the audition. I guess.
And George was in your former seat,
right? Yeah, he was in Atlanta, and so literally, funny story. Walking out of the New York Phil audition was sort of one of the most turning point days of my life, in that I'm walking out totally bummed, yet happy that I made it as far as I did, but still bummed that I got so close.
Right.
I get a phone call from Nathan Zagans as I'm walking to the bus to take me back to DC. He's like, "Hey man, how's it going? Really bummed you didn't win New York, but you want to come to Atlanta next year?" Like,
what a business, man.
Okay.
What a business. Wow.
Yeah, so
incredible. And you were in the Navy Band at that time.
I was, yeah. I only had a few months left in my enlistment, so I was really sort of, debating, all right, do I re-enlist for 4 more years? Do I, sorry, hopefully y'all didn't hear that ding of a text message, but do I re-enlist for 4 more years? Do I see what opportunities come my way? And, I got the call to play a 1 year in Atlanta. And I, to build into that, I had taken their 1 year audition and made finals, I guess a few months before that or earlier that season. So I was already on their radar whenever I did well at New York Phil. So it just kind of happened to work out really well.
Hey, do you want to check that text message in case it's like the Berlin Philharmonic or something?
What do you know? LA Phil, let's do it. No, just kidding.
Hey, stranger things have happened. So, Wow, so that's incredible. So you're that close to the New York Phil, and then you ended up losing like everybody else except for George, even though you came in really close. And then your phone rings as you're walking to the bus, and you've got a 1 year in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that was quite a day.
That's a little bit of a roller coaster, huh?
Yeah. It's exactly what I needed to pick me up after that, though, But oddly enough, I was still happy that I'd even made it that far. I was just like, wow, that just happened. Okay, I'm totally okay losing to George. Absolutely.
Yeah, of course. Of course. Wow. I'm trying to process that, and it didn't happen to me, and I know how the story turned out.
Honey, I have bad news and good news.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a bit of a roller coaster for my wife, who was my girlfriend at that time. And so it was like, hey, you want to move to Atlanta? Let's do this.
And so how did you end up with the permanent gig in Atlanta?
So I started the season of 2013-2014 on a 1 year, and the audition was the following January. So I played about 4 months and then won the audition in January of 2014.
Wow. So what do you think that the secret to your success in so many auditions, either winning them outright or being so close to winning them, since there's so much more that goes into it than just playing your ass off, which of course you have to do, but there's also auditions are their own beast. So can you give any insight into that?
Oh man. Yeah, I feel like a lot that's a can of worms right there. But
you're welcome.
Yeah, thanks.
No, next question.
Pass. Oh man. So much goes into audition prep and auditioning, and I feel like it's a constantly evolving process. What has worked for me doesn't always work for the next audition. Just because I was successful doing, it's always very similar. And it starts with like a 2-month process where the first month I'm learning the excerpts. If there's anything that I haven't prepared for an audition before, I'm learning it. I'm doing my research, getting my recordings, making a listening list, making a book, the usual things. And the second month is really just hours and hours of practice and self-loathing and depression. It
sounds like,
miserable.
That part sounds like being in a brass quintet. But anyway, I've said too much.
Yeah. Except for the preparation part.
Well, yeah, no. I specifically meant the self-loathing in case that was not obvious. How many different recordings of any given excerpt that you weren't already familiar with would you listen to?
I think a good number to go with is like 5. I don't think there's a cap. Definitely, the more you listen to, the more you learn how different conductors have interpreted that music and those tempo markings. But definitely at least 5, so you get a feel of the range of tempi expected for any given excerpt. And also, you pick up a little bit from every recording. Like the New York Phil might play Tchaikovsky 6 one way, Chicago plays it another way, Berlin plays it another way. And they'll each do little nuances with the phrases that, you might take a little bit from this recording, a little bit from that, a little bit from this, and sort of present your own unique product that is musically charged with things that inspire you.
You mentioned that there's commonality in the prep for some aspects of it, and then some things where it was very different in each one. What were the common things across the auditions? I don't mean the excerpts, I mean in terms of the prep.
Common things across the auditions, I think, would be just the amount. For one thing, the amount of time I put in. I had a conversation with clarinetist Ricardo Morales. He's a fantastic clarinetist, and I think he's in Philly right now, principal in Philly. But there was a time where he won several major auditions in a row, and I got to talk to him at PMF. I said, hey, how do we be like you? How do we win auditions? If you can give someone like me advice on how to start winning auditions, what would you say? He said, you gotta want it, and you gotta practice more than anyone out there. It's like, okay, that sounds pretty generic, but he goes 5 hours a day. So I said, okay. And I hadn't won the Navy band yet, but I started doing that. And in that 5 hours, it's not always FaceTime. It could be 2 hours of listening throughout the day with, your music in front of you, headphones on, listening to recordings, and 3 hours on the horn, spread throughout the day or in one chunk, however you like, but, 5 hours a day, because he figured no one else is going to be willing to do that. And sure enough, that proved to be pretty successful for me, because a few months later, I was able to implement that in a few months, and then I won Navy Band that summer of '09, and had a few successful auditions after that. But the other thing is sort of my day of mentality is sort of the same every single time. And it's one of that, like you gotta, regardless of whether you're prepared or not, you have to psych yourself out into telling yourself, I'm more prepared than anyone here. Sort of this fake cockiness, if you will. That like, that's your audition, you're there to win it, and they're holding an audition for you to win, and it's something that obviously you erase the moment you walk out the door after the audition. But, like, you've got to have that confidence there so that you can sit down and not have any shakes or any nerves, but you can simply play your best and try and make some music while you're there.
How much hearing other players or being around other players the day of, how much did that affect you? So you go in with game face and I'm going to kick all of your tails and this is my gig and you guys just go home. How much of that seeps in, if any?
Oh, that's a huge factor. It changes the more auditions you take. So whenever I was first taking auditions, just like, hearing someone in the room next to me would always spark my nerves right away. And I would hear someone play an excerpt, like, wow, that sounds way better than what I've prepared. And it completely throws off my game. So I met a guy named Louis Bremer, fantastic bass trombonist. And he had some success, before I was doing well with auditions. And it was very fortuitous that we both flew back from an audition and had the seats, our seats were right next to each other on the airplane. So I got to pick his brain the whole time / annoy him. And I asked him, it's like, hey, what's your key? Like, this is what trips me up. What do you do to avoid those? And he told me, you walk in with noise cancellation headphones. If you're going in thinking that, that audition is for you and you're the best one there, you can't let anything disturb that. So I walk into most auditions with headphones in, and I do my best not to hear anybody else play. Like, I'll talk to other people, but if I hear someone else warming up, I'll put my headphones back on because I don't want to hear them. Mm-hmm. But, as, like I said, it changes, as I've done more auditions, I've become more confident in my playing, and I'm able to now, 20-something auditions later, I'm able to listen to other people warm up and still keep my cool, and I can hang out and actually talk to a lot of these bass trombone players that I never get to see except for at auditions.
So you said that the nerves would creep in. So in what way would that manifest itself? And then second part of that is, how do you get yourself out of that headspace?
That's the hard part, is getting yourself out. And I haven't found a way to get myself out of it. And so I've just made sure don't let myself get into it in the first place. Once you, in my experience, once those nerves start, you can minimize them, but you'll never get rid of them.
Do they manifest in terms of, like, are you talking to yourself, or are you getting like a physical response, or both, or what actually when you say the nerves creep in, what do you mean?
So for me, whenever I get, when nerves creep in for me, whenever, especially in those earlier auditions, it would manifest in shaking. I remember my first major audition was for the LA Phil, and I was in my warm-up room. I heard someone else just playing beautifully on these excerpts, and it terrified me, because I'm just a grad student. I've been working on excerpts for like a year. I go on stage to play a Beethoven 9, and it's just ba ba bee ba bee. It was
just tell him that you're old school French style.
Oh, a little Tommy Dorsey in there,
Yeah, there you go.
So it was, anybody would cut that. You know, anybody would cut that person that shakes like that. So that it would really manifest physically, and it would cause a lot of self-doubt as well. And, you know, it's anytime you give any performance, you know, I feel like some of the best performers are the ones that are, you know, full of themselves, you know? And, you know, if you think of just great performers, they are convinced that their music is just the best in the world. And that's classical, that's pop, that's rock, that's country. You know, why else would they be doing it if they didn't believe in their product? And so I feel like for me to have a successful audition, I have to maintain that belief in my product through the entire event.
That's fascinating.
What's going on in your head? Are you talking to yourself? I mean, you mentioned the physical part. Is there a dialogue, a monologue, or a dialogue that goes along with it, or it mainly is just you know, palpitations and tremors?
Man, I talk to myself on a regular basis. What are you talking about? on the day of, you know, you mean like sort of like talking myself up, like building it up? You mean?
Yeah, either way. Or like, oh my gosh, like, is it you just get this physical response, or you go in your head, you're like, oh my God, that guy is really good. I'm not going to be able to whatever. Or is it more just the physical sensation takes over?
I mean, yeah, I think a little bit of both. You know, I'm thinking to myself, all right, you know, let's see, Berlioz, Hungarian March. Okay, this is how I want it to go. And then if I hear someone else playing it really well, maybe I'll say, wait a second, I really like the way they did that. I kind of like that more than what I'm doing. And it immediately, you know, that self-doubt can cause you to have a lack of confidence in your performance on stage. And no one wants to hire someone who's not confident in their own product.
Mm-hmm. What percentage of the time would you say you worked on the mental aspects of prep versus the physical aspect?
I usually work on mental preparation like the last week before an audition. Not mental preparation of the excerpts, but mental preparation of, you know, confidence building, just sort of putting myself in the position of being at the audition. Mm-hmm. One thing that has really helped me, though, is I find a picture of the hall on Google Images, and I'll put that as my desktop for the entire process of my preparation. And every day for my practice session, I imagine myself standing on that stage, committee out there, and I'm playing for them every time I run an excerpt. So that really helps with the mental game of auditions, and that whenever I get there, and like for New York, when I walked out on stage and Joe Alessi is sitting there, it's like, well, hey, what's up? Good to see you again. I just saw you every day for the past 2 months, you know, so to say, and in my practice. So it's nothing startling. Whereas that I've talked to a lot of people who say, you know, well, you know, I was so prepared, but then I walked out and Joe was sitting there, and I lost it.
Yeah.
You know,
did you like Google image search like disappointed Joe Alessi, and so like see if there was like, you know, put that on your mirror so that if he makes a face, you're like, I'm ready for this, Joe.
I actually, yeah, and I got a great photo of him scowling. I cut it out and I superimposed it over the audience in every single chair in the audience. So I had about 500 Joe Alessi scowling at me.
I found a GIF of him puking, and I just played it over and over again. And he's like, then there was one where he takes an ice pick and jams it in his ear, curses my name. It all helped.
When I was studying with Sam Palafian in graduate school, he was really big into the visualization thing as well, and that was before at least the proliferation of Google image search. That takes it to another level. That's really smart to actually put yourself physically there. But Sam used to have us imagine, you know, walking into the hall, and he would have us do run-throughs when we imagined that the room was like, you know, 60 degrees, like it was way too cold. And so the horn was like wanting to go flat, you know, or that it was like sweltering hot and the air conditioner's broken. And, you know, just kind of very specific scenarios such that when you walk in and, you know, how many times have you played an audition where you can see your breath? The answer is none. And, you know, and how often is it too warm? But, you know, if it's a little bit and one direction or the other, that you've already encountered it before. It's really powerful stuff.
Yeah, I mean, visualizing any sort of situation can, it can prepare you for it in many different ways, I think.
Well, and you have to be careful. I mean, you said it. If you visualize, you can really screw yourself, because if you visualize yourself and there's a clam in the visualization, you're reinforcing the wrong sort of thing. So if you do want to experiment with visualization and you have a situation like that, you need to like snap out of it, go take a shower, have a sandwich, and then come back and do it again.
Sandwich
shower and a sandwich.
Not at the same time.
Because the key is that the visualization has to be the optimal. You're preparing for the optimal version of the whatever it is you're doing.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, if I've got a recital in a few days, and I just imagine Pat Sheridan playing, except with my face on his body. So, and then, which
just a
which then I sound
printout
awesome.
taped to his forehead.
Where is your face on his body?
Oh goodness, this went off the rails.
Bad touch. Bad touch.
About when it normally does. Yeah, on my birthday this summer, Pat sent me his recording of Happy Birthday, which he sounds just phenomenal on, and it's generic. It's obvious he recorded it without a name on it. So I told my wife, I was like, this is awesome, because now I can send this to people and just, pretend that it's me. I was like, but I can't send it to Lance, because Lance has probably got it, and he's probably like, yeah, it's not you, dude. Yeah, I can't send anybody that knows my playing that well, but it's like, so yeah, if you get a Happy Birthday recording from me that sounds like way better than usual, that's because it's actually Pat.
I'll be sure to post it on Facebook and let everybody know. Check out Andrew Hitz. He's sounding amazing these days.
Yeah, he almost sounds like Pat Sheridan levels on this Happy Birthday. I feel better now that I've admitted that to the world. So a few days ago, you, with the Atlanta Symphony, you played a gig with some guitar player named Trey Anastasio.
Who's that? What?
Yeah, I don't know. He's some redheaded millionaire dude who plays in a hippie band.
Oh, it was amazing.
Yeah, what was that like? And that's the guitar player for Fish, for like the three people who are hearing my voice who don't know who that is, because I never shut up about it. Imagine being married to me. Okay, now you can stop. That's one of those unpleasant, you need a shower and a sandwich. That's one of those unpleasant visualizations that you need to snap out of immediately. But what was your impression? And then I'd love to hear maybe what some of your colleagues thought about it.
Oh, it was surreal. For me, I'm definitely not as big of a Fish fan as you are. I've only been to one concert, not 286 and a half. But it was one of the coolest concerts I've gotten to play with the Atlanta Symphony. I had one of the sound wedges placed right behind my seat, and so most of the time when we're doing pop shows, you can't really hear what's going on at the front of the stage. They've got all the sound pumping out to the audience, but I was sure to have them put a wedge right behind my seat. And so that it was basically like just jamming along with this incredible musician for, an hour and a half. It was, incredible is just the best thing I can say about it. It was, he's one of those true musicians that you get to play with. His phrasing was impeccable. His rhythm, his time were flawless. Pitch was flawless. And, he did it all from memory. I know a lot of the times, a lot of his shows, his band is very flexible, so if something goes a different direction, they have that flexibility. They can, do a different set of keys that maybe they hadn't rehearsed, but they can move as a single unit. But as an orchestra, you have parts, and he had these 12, 16-minute songs that he had them entirely memorized, every single chord, and he was arpeggiating them on the guitar like he was doing it in his sleep. It was really surreal getting to play with him. That's definitely going to be a performance I remember for a long time.
What were your thoughts on the crowd?
Crowd was nuts. You know what? And they were very respectful too. Whenever so a lot of the times when we do pop shows, the crowd gets rowdy. We've got a ton of booze flowing out there. They're having a good time. And especially Trey's crowd loves to drink. You know, they actually had we came back from intermission. I think it was like a 20-minute intermission, and we had to start the second half because that's what they had planned on doing. Otherwise, overtime and all sorts of red tape. There was maybe a quarter of the audience back in their seats. They said, "No thanks. I'll catch it 4 minutes late, 5 minutes late. I'm getting another beer." So it was a very happy crowd, very lively crowd. And what I mean by respectful, that was so interesting, and I hadn't seen this in a performance before, but when Trey was playing, there's a lot of really quiet moments, really touching moments, really where he's, just everything's really soft. The chord changes are very, smooth, just like glass. And some guy yells out, it was a day before Trey's birthday, "Happy birthday, Trey!" Probably 30 people in the audience shushed this guy. And it's like, of course they all wanted to say happy birthday as well, but I mean, Trey's up there making music, and no one wanted to miss a single note of it. And so anytime someone sort of yelled out or whatever, especially in the quieter spots, they got shushes from all over because everyone was just on the edge of their seat sometimes in these really quiet spots, just wanting to soak up every little bit of his playing. It was really cool to see.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, you can dress us up and take us to the symphony, but it's hard to behave for the entire performance.
So what did Trey have to say about Andrew?
Yeah,
you know what? He had some wonderful things to say about you.
I bet he did. Yeah, in fish circles, I go by Drew. So if you asked him about Andrew and he pretended to not know me, that's probably
he gave me a look at first, and then I showed him a few pictures.
Yeah, and then he went, "Oh, that guy."
Oh,
yeah.
Of course.
Oh, restraining order guy. Right.
That's the guy who told me I was playing Mike's song wrong about 5 different times until I fixed it, and now he leaves me alone. So, well, texting with you about it brought back so many memories because Steve Dumaine, who's the tuba player, of course, in the National Symphony, who we've never asked to do this, and he would do it, and he'd be an awesome interview. So we will have him on. But when it was announced that Trey was playing with the NSO about 4 years ago, Steve and I know each other since high school. So I shot him an email, and I knew him well enough, and I said, "All right, Steve, here's the deal. Please feel free to tell me to go screw. But if you let me play that gig for you, like I will forever. I'll do whatever you tell me to do
for a year.
Whatever, 10 years. Yeah. I mean, and he laughed and he said, "Let me see what I can do." And then, sure enough, he made it happen. And that was the first time I played with the NSO. It was the first time I played at the Kennedy Center, and the trombones could not have been any more cool because I was just geeking out. David Murray was playing bass trombone on that gig, and your story about the wedges, yeah, they had one of those, a couple of those back that they put in halfway through the first rehearsal, and we could basically hear well enough, and I'm a sub, so I'm just being polite, and they asked if we wanted them, and David leaned over. He's like, "You want one?" And I was like, "I mean, yeah, sure." And then David was like, "Yeah, we need one back here." He spoke up for me, and then he pointed it right at me. I was like, "Is that cool?" He was like, "Turn it up as loud as you want, Hitz." So, and I was like, "Yeah, they were totally geeked at how unbelievably happy I was." So, yeah, it was awesome. So. So what did you hear any comments from any of your colleagues by any chance about playing with Trey?
Actually, there was a little bit of talk in the break room, and I mean, everybody loved him. But every now and then you play some pop shows where you're just like, I've never heard of these people before. These arrangements are awful, and we're doing 3 shows. Like, oh my god. But we've gotten some really great programming this year with our pop series, and obviously Trey is one of the highlights, and everyone was saying these are the kind of pop shows that make this job and playing pops worth every minute of it. Awesome. They were great arrangements, a great musician, yes. And he's one of the nicest, most humblest people you'll ever meet in your life. He came up to the orchestra. We've had some artists that come with us that they send a contract ahead of time saying, musicians, please don't approach for autographs or pictures. We've had that sort of standoffish type, but Trey was the complete opposite of that. He, in fact, showed up early to rehearsal, walked around, introduced himself to all the strings, basically. At intermission for the first rehearsal, he just let probably 20 people surround him, take pictures, talk to him about. One of the interesting questions I had for him was a lot of times in live performances, his songs can be up to 30 minutes, but you can't do that with an orchestra show. Otherwise you'll have 2 songs on a half. So I asked him, how does he manage to, sort of truncate a song and get it down to 12 minutes? And does he feel like he loses anything in that process? And of course he wouldn't have a song be 30 minutes long if he didn't think it was worth every minute. So, but he had some, he humored my nerdiness and all of us just fanning out over him. It was really cool.
See, when he has to deal with real stalkers like me, it makes you look like you're like a cupcake, comparatively. So
what was his explanation?
His explanation, it was
no.
I
gotta go take a shower and get a sandwich. I'll see you guys later.
I'm just here for the check, man.
He said, of course, he doesn't get to do, some of these long threading phrases that he wants and that he's worked out in sort of the longer versions of these songs. But it also is cool because he gets to re-experience these songs in different ways. Like a 18-minute song is shortened down to 10 minutes. That means that he has to peak the phrases differently, and he has to spin it differently. And he takes some stuff out that he doesn't want to, but it creates for a new experience of that same song, So I thought that was a really cool answer whenever he put it like that.
Those charts are all written by my very good friend Don Hart, and aren't they phenomenal?
They're great.
He's a brilliant orchestrator, and Trey, from what I understand from their collaborative process, Trey absolutely is a part of it, but Trey also recognizes that the reason that Don is on the task is because Don is one of the best orchestrators in the world. And so Trey lets Don do his thing, and they talk about stuff. But yeah, the charts are great because, we've all played like horrendously written pops arrangements. Yes. So for quintet, for concert band, for orchestra, and boy, does that make the job difficult.
Yeah.
So
they were even editing some of the parts just here and there. We would run a piece, and at intermission, Trey would say to him, like, "Hey, actually, I had a great idea how to make that part a little bit better. We'll talk about it later." So they're always improving. I thought that was really cool.
There were a couple of tunes that you guys did, What's the Use and The Lizards, which had just debuted 2 days earlier in Nashville, and then you did one tune more, which was the premiere of it. It had never been played before, so I bet it was one of those charts, one of the new ones.
Oh, okay, yeah, that would make sense.
I would, not that I was keeping close tabs on things. I was, when you were talking about how approachable he was backstage, Craig Mulcahy on the National Symphony gig, the words that he used, who's the principal trombone, for those of you listening who I'm sure all the fish nerds are going to go straight to this section of the interview, who don't know, but Craig's principal trombone in the National Symphony, and he said that Trey was the nicest millionaire that they had ever had soloing with the National Symphony. And it's true that Trey was like backstage before the gig. It's a big deal. I don't care how many times you've sold out Madison Square Garden. When you're soloing with the National Symphony Orchestra at the Kennedy Center, that's a big night in your career. And his dressing room door was open, and he was posing for photos with people, and he was standing there, not in a, "Hey, everybody tell me how great I am," but just, he's such a good human. He knows that a lot of people would kill for a photo for their nephew or for themselves or whatever. And he's just so approachable. It's kind of nice when your heroes end up being that nice.
Absolutely.
So, which is not the experience that people had with Boston Brass, but Lance and I, we're working on it, right, Lance? We're working on it.
Yeah.
So, what's next for you, Brian? Now that you've played with like every major orchestra in the world except for Berlin, what the hell, Berlin? And you've soloed with so many things. So, what is it that You're only 32. You've done so much. What have you not done yet that you would really love to do in the next year, 10 years, 30 years?
Boston and LA are still on my bucket list. So if you know anybody,
they're on mine too. I have a longer list than you. So yeah, but yeah.
You know, I mean, I just like I enjoy the career that I'm sort of building, and it's whenever I look ahead about what I want to do, I don't know. I don't look too far. I kind of think, what do I want to do this year and how can I make it happen? I'm trying to cultivate a little bit of a solo career as well. Just like recitals and stuff, universities, nothing, like crazy or anything. But, like I try to see what opportunities come my way. And basically, I don't turn many things down unless it conflicts with family or it conflicts with something I've already committed to. I find that a lot of times, when you say yes to things, more opportunities come your way. And so, I've got a full year ahead of me. This is the first time I'm booked for more than 12 months in advance. And, I'm starting to book things for the fall of next year that, I'm sort of like living in the moment. I'm not, I'm not sure what I want in the next 10 years. Just really happy with where I am right now.
There you go.
Yeah,
That'll
that's
fade.
a great answer. Give it time, young man. Give it time. That'll fade.
I saw you teach at
That's like the
Kennesaw.
most obnoxious thing
Yes.
you possibly could.
Oh, I know. Yeah,
It's perfect.
I'm just gonna keep rolling. Yeah, drop the turd and keep moving. Yeah. Yeah, keep it moving. That's all right. Nothing to see here, folks. It's all right. Move along. So Kennesaw State, right?
Yeah, Kennesaw State.
So you teach bass trombone or all trombones, or what are you doing there?
Oh no, we've got a few. We have a few part-time professors that we all sort of collaborate on for the trombone studio. So I teach the bass trombones. The tenor trombones are taught by Nathan Zagant, Tom Gibson, and Wes Funderburk.
Who?
Yeah, never heard of it.
Who are all these guys? Yeah, you guys have done a podcast before with Tom and Wes, I believe, right?
We did. Yeah.
Together,
Yeah.
you can imagine how that went.
Mm-hmm.
Great people. Actually, I need to tune into that one. I need to go
I'm-
check that out.
I'm guessing that
Great
the
people.
four of
Wow,
us,
man, that doesn't sound very sincere. Those guys are two of the guys that I know.
So yeah, what's it like? What's it like getting to play with Tom and Wes? They're great people.
It's like a party,
They're really
man. It's
great.
just-
They're
really
great people.
It's a hang, is what it is. Like there's nothing structured about it. It's like you sit down, you play, you drink your beer, you play, you take a shot, you play a little bit more, make some poop jokes.
Nutty Pop.
I'd rather play with those guys. I'd rather play with those guys than the best guys in town.
That's right.
That's right.
No,
I
they're
learned that
great
line.
people, and it's a pleasure working with them. I get a chance to work with Tom and Wes, in different settings. Whether it's quartets or in the symphony. Sometimes
you were going to say in court. I swear to God. Well, yeah, I could see that. Yeah. We're the
we've
quartet
each
in residence for the Third Circuit Court of Atlanta.
I thought he meant maybe they had each served as a character witness for the other at some point in time.
We actually play music during the verdict. You have been found guilty. Ba, 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 ba.
If you can, if you are a Patreon patron and you listen to the very end of the bonus episode, I think you're going to hear Brian practicing the music for the guilty version.
That's right.
I think 'cause
Uh-huh.
that's what it was.
It's gotta be
Like
good.
loud.
It's beep bop
It's not Oh my goodness! And speaking of family, you semi-recently became a father, right?
Yeah. Just put the kiddo down to bed about an hour ago. She's 1.5 right
Oh.
now. Yeah. She's a
pretty
doll,
good.
learning the word no very well, and actually, fitting with our humor, poopy is her new word.
Yeah, those are two important ones.
Yeah.
Actually, my son is just about 3.5, and I swear so much that I literally never swear around Nicholas because I'm so bad about curse words that like I've had to just completely 100% shut it down. So there's been almost zero slips.
How do you do that?
So it doesn't say any,
How do you do that?
well, it's just I didn't want to. I really like my wife like a lot.
Yeah,
that's a good thing. That's good.
It's actually not that difficult. You're like,
yeah, but and I wanted to keep her in my life. So, or rather, I wanted her to keep me in hers. Is actually the real answer.
That's the real answer.
But for whatever reason, the only thing that he says that's bad, quote unquote bad, is he keeps saying poop truck. And he goes, and he figured out that like, well, we're kind of like, yeah, you know, it'd be awesome if you didn't just say poop truck all the time. And he's like, why, Daddy? It's a truck made of poop. It's a poop truck. And poop truck.
Yeah,
so,
why not, right? Of course.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a lot better than him dropping F-bombs or...
they'll get there.
Yeah,
they'll get there. Don't worry.
An effing poop truck.
So,
but,
my daughter, who's about to turn 24, was about 3, and I was driving someplace, and I was on the phone, and I said something that was stupid, and we hung up the phone, and from the back seat, my daughter says, "Stupid's a bad word." And I said, "Yeah, you're right. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said stupid." And then she waits a beat, and she goes, "Hell's a bad word, too." Oh, no. How far is this going to take us? Oh, man.
Yeah, man. So, no and poop.
Yeah.
Or poopies. Poop truck.
Poopies.
So, yeah, there you go. That's what we should name this episode, Lance, is Poop Truck.
Poop truck is a good one.
Sold.
Poop Truck featuring Brian Hecht. So, speaking of poop trucks.
Right, exactly.
Where are you going with this?
Yeah, Canadian poop
Perfect
trucks.
segue.
You, I'm sure, have... my goal is to always make the Jens segment segue as awkward as humanly possible. That was a pretty good awkward one. Not as good as some of them have been. Check. The poop check is different than poop truck. So I'm sure that you have heard about the problems that our dear friend Jens Lindemann has been undergoing with his chops lately. It's hard. But we have asked over poop chops. We have asked over 60 people now what their advice is for him, or if not advice, just if you want to offer some words of encouragement or support for Jens.
Anything to help out a friend. Yes.
Yeah. So what advice or Jens? So what advice would you have for Jens Lindemann in this time of need?
You know, Jens, I always find that, you know, whenever I play on a bigger mouthpiece, it just helps bring things together. And, you know, sometimes the mouthpiece is so big, it's described as a toilet bowl. So why don't I just go the whole 9 yards, drop a nice a poop truck
chops
into a toilet bowl. Go ahead and put your chops right in the water and just start blowing bubbles. And you just get the air flowing.
No.
We have gone fully off the rails. Fully off the rails.
Anyway, that should fix your chops right away. Try it back on the horn without even rinsing the face. You'd be good to go.
Wow.
Yeah, right.
Too far? Was that too far?
Wow. No, that was, not at all for the two of us. The audience will see. Yeah.
We work hard, so you don't have to.
Wow. There you go. I'm going to
there.
get to play this episode for Nicholas and the poop truck and how that just inspired like a 6-minute spiral downward. So.
I was going to have better advice, but that, somehow, for some reason, I don't know what we were talking about, but poop was stuck in my head.
Like blowing bubbles was actually probably the most disturbing part of that. So, anyway, we won't because we like to drive things into the ground, but that's almost worthy of shutting the segment down. That's like, where do we go from there? I would not want to be the next person interviewed. Put it that way.
Says everyone.
Yeah, says everyone. So Lance, is there anything else that we want to ask this beautiful young man here before we let him go, or rather before we talk to him just very briefly for our bonus segment?
No.
We just kind of had the bonus segment because usually the bonus segment is a little looser, but I'm not sure. I don't know how we could go. Actually, speaking of Wes, Tom, Lance, and myself have a text message thread that goes back like years that if that ever sees the light of day, we're all in big trouble. So,
dead. Just dead.
Yeah.
Forward to everyone you know.
Really, really big trouble. So... Well, Brian, this has been awesome. It's so wonderful to see all of the success that you've had so early on. And I ask, how the hell have you played with that many orchestras and everything? But when you hear how you play and then you see how genuinely nice and friendly you are, then, and not that you haven't intentionally networked, and I'm not going to turn this into an episode of The Entrepreneurial Musician, but you have intentionally networked, but you're also just natural at it because you like people and you're very personable and you play your ass off. And that tends to lead to people playing with a lot of people. So it's really great to finally get you on the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for doing it, man.
Of course. And that is going to do it for another episode of The Brass Junkies.
You've been listening to The Brass Junkies on the Pedal Note Media Podcast Network. If you would like to help support the podcast in order to make more episodes like this one possible, please visit pedalnotemedia.com/donate for more details. Also, be sure to check out our latest recording, The Brass Recording Project, at brassrecordingproject.com. The Brass Junkies is produced by Joey Santillo. Executive producers are Andrew Hitz and Lance LaDuke. This has been a presentation of the Pedal Note Media Podcast Network.